Hi, and thank you for listening. My name is Megan Kulow, and I'm a nutritionist with Purina Animal Nutrition. As we are entering into the heat of summer, I would like to speak on the topic of heat stress and the effects it has on all stages of lactation. It's not just a concern for milking cows. First off, the cow has a certain level of heat and humidity that she can tolerate before she is impacted negatively. This measure is THI, temperature and humidity index. Above a THI of 72, the cow may start experiencing heat stress. As you look at the table on the right, you can see the varying level of degrees of heat stress as either temperature or humidity or both rise. So when producers typically think of keeping cows cool, they think of keeping milking cows cool to prevent the normal reduction in dry matter intake and milk production that can come along with heat stress. But let's not forget the importance of keeping cows in late lactation and the dry period cool too. Research is showing that any heat stress these cows in late gestation may face not only impacts the next lactation, but has startling effects on the calves they carry. Dr. Jeffrey Dahl's research group from the University of Florida have been focusing on this subject for over the past decade. As we continue on, the following graphs and diagrams are from a webinar that Dr. Dahl presented in May and was sponsored by Fibro. So, the research done by University of Florida, they initially became interested in dry cow heat stress when they looked at production records over 4 years in Florida and noticed that the lowest production months lagged behind the highest temperatures by 2 months, similar to a dry period. So now their studies have focused on impacts of heat stress on the cow and the subsequent lactation, how it affected milk yield, metabolism, immune function, and then furthermore, they looked into the impacts of that heat stress during the dry period, the late gestation time, on the calf that's in utero. So their dry cow studies are typically set up in sand-bedded freestalls where they have 2 groups, a heat stress treatment group, which is under shade but has no fans and no sprinklers, and the THI is greater than 72, but not hard to achieve in Florida. And then the cooled treatment group, which is again under shade in the barn, with fans and sprinklers, and their THI is also greater than 72. In the graph on the left, you can see the outcome of one of Dr. Dahl's studies, where milk production is reduced in cows that were heat stressed during the dry period, those are the open circles, compared to cows that were cooled, the black squares. And the reduction in milk production lasted throughout the lactation. Dr. Dahl noted that dry cows exposed to heat stress with no evaporative cooling suffered setbacks in mammary cell development, which translated into reduced milk production in their subsequent lactations. Their research has also showed an increase in disease incidence, and the cows that were heat stressed during the dry period were more reproductively challenged compared to their herd mates whose dry periods were in cooler months. The graph on the right is a collection of heat stress studies in dry cows that show similar outcomes. Again, the open bars are heat stress cows and the black bars are cooled cows. And you see that in each study, there is a significant decrease in milk production between the 2 groups. A big factor in the increased milk production for cool cows relates to the mammary development during the dry period. Overall, more mammary cell growth in the cows that were cooled during the dry period compared to those that were heat stressed. The counterpart to cell growth is cell death, and Dr. Dahl's research group found no difference in cell death when the cows were heat stressed. Therefore, the cows that were cooled just had more capacity to produce more milk in the next lactation. In summary, heat stress in dry cows can lead to a 6 to 10 pounds less per day in production in their next lactation, and this extends through the whole lactation. Also, an increase in mammary cell growth in cows that were cooled during their dry period allows for more capacity. Plus, in the dry period, the heat stress can lead to lower immunity and increased disease incidences like mastitis, respiratory disease, and retained placentas. Furthermore, there's also a reduced reproductive efficiency. And then finally, cows under heat stress often calve sooner. which leads us into the next study focus that looks on how heat stress in the dam affects the calf in utero and the short and long-term impacts that may follow. Dr. Dahl's research group has uncovered the following impacts on the calf. In the short term, these calves are born with decreased weights at birth, and then that translates into decreased weights at weaning. And furthermore, along with the decreased weights, these calves also seem to have a shift in their metabolic pathway as well, and tend to shift resources into adding fat rather than lean growth. Secondly, a short-term impact is that these calves are less efficient at passive transfer of immunity from their colostrum. They have found that this is due to accelerated post-gut closure and not due to a difference in colostrum quality. Next, there are longer-term impacts on these calves. They seem to have a lower survival rate in the herd, especially prior to puberty. So for the calves that do make it into first lactation, they produce 10 pounds of milk less per day during that lactation. And then these effects in milk production continue through the second and third lactation, and these animals never seem to really reach their full genetic potential. Furthermore, there are transgenerational effects that these calves born from dams that were heat stressed during the dry period pass on to their own offspring. So, support your dry cows in the summer. According to the National Animal Health Monitoring Dairy Study, 75.7% of all operations provide fans for their lactating herd, while just 47.7% provide fans for their dry cows. Sprinklers are provided for lactating cows at 25.2%, yet only 10.7% of dry cows are cooled with sprinklers. There is definitely a gap in dry cow comfort, and this gap may really be hurting your bottom line. So, if you have the opportunity and resources, consider adding sprinklers and fans for your dry cows. Also, speak to a CP Feeds nutrition team member about different dietary additives that can be used to help support transition cow health and milk production, even during hot weather challenges. Thank you, and stay cool this summer.